Welcome back to Mission Matters Live. I am Megan Mio, Director of the Global Mission Office, and I'm here with representatives from Maryknoll Lay Missioners. We have Celine and Don Woznica, Lay Missioners, Jennifer Tomshack, Communications Manager, and Daniel Lizárraga, Manager of the Mission Services Department for Maryknoll Lay Missioners. We have two folks on Zoom with us today too, Daniel and Jennifer. So for those of you who are not familiar, Maryknoll Lay Missioners is a Catholic mission-sending community committed to nonviolence through prevention, intervention, reconciliation, and restoration of all creation. We've been talking about the experiences Celine and Don have had in the course of their lives with Maryknoll Lay Missioners, and talking about how mission, once a missioner, always a missioner. Mission never ends. And Jennifer and Daniel, too, have been sharing stories about missioners who are currently serving, those who have returned and continue to do good works. Celine and Don are living here in Oak Park and have been involved in a migrant ministry in the Oak Park area with multiple communities. It was originally sponsored by the Catholic communities there in Oak Park, but is now a joint effort of all those in that particular region, but really throughout the whole city and suburbs, Chicagoland, because folks have been donating their time and their money and all their belongings too. So now I'd like us to kind of conclude with some discussion about this vocation and the discernment process one might go through. You mentioned you just sent two folks this past December off to become Maryknoll Lay Missioners. So I wonder what, Daniel, if you could tell us about what does the discernment process look like today? What are the sort of stages somebody might go through if they're interested in becoming a Maryknoll Lay Missioner? And how do they ultimately decide where they'll go or what they might do while on mission?
Right. Well, thank you, Megan. And I think that it's so interesting to see the diversity of people who are discerning in the discernment process or who have moved forward even in mission because they come from different walks of life at different points of their life. Some who, traditionally we have focused on those recently out of college or university who have graduated and looking for, a way of service as well as experience and so forth. And we certainly are always on the lookout for them, but we also invite people from at other times in their journey, some in their later years of retirement or close to retirement, or some even in midlife who want to kind of again, choose their response to serving to this call that they have felt. Some who have been influenced by the Maryknoll magazine, the beautiful images there of service and other ways. Our social media has certainly expanded in recent times that people become more aware, especially in the younger generation. But we always invite people to consider, to look at possibilities of serving. And for this purpose, number one, I think the grounding in one's spiritual life is certainly helpful to examine, all that they need to be aware of, to be accompanied hopefully by a spiritual director or someone who can provide some kind of guidance to them with regards to this call. And we are happy to also kind of help people direct them to some resources for that, if that's something that they're interested in. We also have a retreat, a Holy Week retreat, which is coming up in April, of course, which will be from Holy Thursday through Easter Sunday. We'll be here in El Paso. And so we invite people to consider that being as an opportunity to really see, learn, find out more, and contemplate with others this call that they may be hearing from the Lord. We are doing that in collaboration with the priest and sisters so that people who are feeling called to any of those walks of life with Maryknoll are certainly welcome to do so. And we have that on our website, the registration for that. And the only thing we ask is for people to cover their transportation to and from El Paso, and we cover the rest of their accommodations and meals and so forth. So that's a great opportunity. In the process, however, then going to a more formal kind of process would be that the individual or couples, families, again, we invite them. And by the way, although Maryknoll is a Catholic organization and an association of the faithful canonically, we also welcome people from different spiritual journeys, with recognition, of course, that our history and our foundation has that Catholic identity. So our expressions in terms of how we live that out is certainly influenced by that. But we welcome others to be a part of Maryknoll Lay Missioners in that regard. So we have monthly webinars that we offer the basic information, again, like what I'm explaining right now in terms of the process of the work that we do overseas and what that entails. It's led by my colleague, Lupe Garcia, who is based in New York and who also assists with recruitment. And, she goes over, explains everything to them. And if need be, sometimes we have several people attending. We're flexible in terms of people can't make it, then she will, take the opportunity to schedule something so that it can meet their needs. So we're always available for that. Once they attend the webinar and they are feeling, this is a way forward, we do kind of make ourselves available, both myself and Lupe make ourselves available to them to have a one-on-one conversation to discuss further anything they learned from the webinar, any questions they still have, and so forth. And then they can request an application. And the application process is January 15th through March 31st. So they have during that time to really consider the questions, which, are asked for people to really give a lot of thought and reflection to, and prayer, of course. And provided that the person is in good health, we do have health forms that will also need to be submitted, as well as recommendations from people who know them professionally and socially, and perhaps even a pastor or someone who can attest to their commitment to service. Then we get all of that, we process that internally, and then we make a determination about an interview, which is the next step. That interview is with myself, with the executive director, and our two regional directors, one based in Africa, one based in Latin America. And it's one interview with the panel, four of us. So scheduling is a little tricky, so it can take some time. However, it's a great opportunity for people to elaborate and so forth with that. If there's a need for any further conversation, then I'm available to the the applicant, about that. Then we inform the outcome after the application and the interview, to invite someone then to enter into the process of orientation and formation. Okay, so if you're looking in terms of a timeline, is from starting January to the end of March to do the applications. We'll start scheduling interviews as soon as we receive the applications and start coordinating. And then through the end of March until May, there will be the decision on inviting someone to the orientation and formation program, which that program takes place in El Paso for 8 weeks, beginning the middle of October through the end of November into December. So they come here in person. We provide the accommodations and meals, and go through. It's a very intensive program of going over various presentations, as well as opportunities for ministry, engaged ministry here on the border. Before that starts, there is a process of discernment that goes on, a dialogue between May and October with people in the countries that they desire, that they identify as their priorities to serve. Maryknoll Lay Missioners tries to honor that. It is based on interests, as well as language, as well as skills or what people are looking to do. There's a lot of flexibility in terms of the ministry opportunities. So there's a dialogue that goes on with people in those countries where they've identified their choices, and then they'll be presented with at least two countries to select from, usually. And then, kind of at that point, they don't need to commit to a particular ministry unless it's specialized, such as medical, health, and so forth. But then the commitment is more to the country. And then when the orientation information program takes place, at the end of that, they are commissioned and sign a covenant with Maryknoll Lay Missioners and have a sending ceremony to, by that time, of course, they already know the country before that even happens where they will be going to.
Yeah.
In January, early to mid-January, then they would begin their assignment. There's go to their assigned country, receive language and culture training, and then discern, if they haven't already, the ministry. They'll be exposed to the various ministries that Maryknoll is working in there, and then will make the final commitment to their ministry when they are there and once they've had a chance to learn. So it's a rather extensive process, but it does provide, space, time and space for someone to really know what they're getting into, because our service time of commitment is 2.5 years if someone already is fluent in the language of service of the country that they'll be assigned to, or up to 3.5 years for the initial one if they don't, if they choose to, or if they don't have an extensive language background for that country.
It's such a commitment to learn a new language, right? You want to make it
Many,
worth it.
yeah, many, I might say, do renew their commitments. The Wozniaks did, and so forth, so that after their initial contract period, they can choose to continue there, or perhaps even somewhere else if they are feeling called to that. We'll discern that with them as well. But as I said, there are different walks of life that people come here, and that's something that we are open to. Health, providing that they're able to do that, we're certainly open and willing to encourage, support them in that regard.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of a process of sort of narrowing, kind of starting broad and then kind of slowly determining, is this really the right thing? I think that because of this commitment, it's a way of life. It's not just kind of like a job or something even, it's like, it's a vocation. So you do need extensive time to be certain kind of on both sides. Yes, this is what I feel called to, and yes, this community wants someone like me, or that this is a good fit for both of us, and that Maryknoll feels this is a good fit too. You talked about Maryknoll charism, that this is something that charisms aren't something that you put on. It's something that you have within you, or you don't. I don't know, or whatever. It's just not a good fit, and so it's something that you need to take time to find out, and that exposure and those opportunities for interacting with folks and learning, but also just self-discovery, self-reflection too.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why, again, what we offer is orientation and formation. So it's orientation in terms of the skills on how to, enculturation and learning how to live in relationship to others of different backgrounds, of essential survival skills for, people from North America living in underdeveloped countries. These are certain things, and they hear from firsthand from current lay missioners as well as returned lay missioners on how they've been able to do it while living out this very important, the values of Maryknoll Lay Missioners. How, not just what we do, but how we do it. How we do it in community, how we do it in partnership, how those relationships are so significant. Like you said, it's not just a job offer or job, focus. And we've generally left that open for individuals to discern to do that. However, We also are in the process of developing some more kind of job descriptions where there's a specialty that might be needed and required in a certain country that might, help someone to make the connection. Oh yeah, well this is, something I have a background, education or health or one of those fields that I could really connect with and make a contribution. So.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, there are some technical elements there, I'm sure, in addition to the cultural and language, but also other skills. I'm also struck, you said, about like how we do things. Another really important question is the why. Why do you feel called to this? What is motivating you? How do you see yourself as called? Which I'm sure is sometimes a difficult question, I'm sure, to answer. But when it comes to Maryknoll, even though you mentioned, of course, people of all traditions and all faiths might be welcomed, it is about a relationship to God for why we do this.
Yes, and people again, either some may have carried this call for a long time now. Maybe initially they thought, as you said early in the program, that the only way they could live this out was as a priest or as a sister, in which are, of course, absolutely beautiful ways to live out that vocation. However, many people as lay people feel called as well, and this is certainly that opportunity that is provided to serve, whether fresh out of college or university, or after they've developed some experience, or after many who want to have some kind of sense of security for when they return. It is by today's standards, certainly an extensive commitment that we're asking for, 2.5 to 3.5 years. Maryknoll Lay Missioners is insistent on that in some ways because it's not. It's looking at the impact that one has by the time that you get acculturated, by the time that you become fluent, not just in the language, but also just the way, of communication, I guess, with people, that you can, really have an impact starting what we consider, the first initial half year, where you're just kind of finding your way and really able to do that. So that is a priority, as well as community living, not necessarily in residential kind of setting, although some people look at that. But there are a variety of housing opportunities. We provide a stipend. Some people live on their own, some people live with a family, but they're also in contact with other Maryknoll Lay Missioners in the area. We try to do the placements in proximity where they can gather regularly, at least monthly in most cases, with lay missioners, as well as with priests and or sisters who might also be serving in that area.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's truly it's about community. It's about we're living together.
Right.
And so I wonder if Celine and Don can talk a little bit about, from your time as lay missioners, I know it's hard to say, like, what was a typical day as a lay missioner, because I'm sure every day was completely different. But based on what you heard Daniel describing, could you echo some of those things that he explained about things people should know if they're discerning? What is the day in the life like?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's different depending on the country you're in, and if you're rural versus urban, or what kind of ministry you're in. I think the one thing that I would say is expect to be surprised, and that may be on a daily basis, but there's probably more atypical days than typical days in that sense. Sure. Your electricity might go out, and you're in the dark when you thought you were going to be getting something done at night, or the water may not be there, and you're bucket flushing your toilet, every third or fourth time you go. I think I remember the hardest time for us, in one sense, was when we were living in Nicaragua. This was during the war. Our refrigerator went out for 5 months. We couldn't get a replacement motor. And so Celine had to go to the market every day, and we had to eat what we, every day, because you couldn't store anything. Yeah. And it wasn't until one of the Christian brother rode a Jeep to Panama, bought a generic refrigerator motor, and we just happened to go back to the States for her sister's wedding, and we were able to bring back the canisters of Freon or whatever it was. Otherwise, we would have gone, So it's things like that happen, floods and earthquakes, and people showing up at your door unannounced because there's no phones. And so just expect to be surprised and to be able to roll with the punches in that sense.
Yeah, And I had to say that was a gas-powered refrigerator because there wasn't electricity. But you know what? Rolling with the punches had these wonderful experiences. So we've had experiences. Again, we just had the one light bulb in that one room house, but the electricity would go out. Okay, so all right. So what are we going to do? We might as well go outside, because you got the stars. And all the neighbors are outside, because everybody has to go outside because there's no reason to stay inside because it's dark.
Yeah.
And so it's dark, and what did you're talking, you're playing, you might bring some snacks along. And then after maybe a couple of hours or so, the electricity goes back on. And on more than one occasion, we've said, let's pretend like it didn't go back on.
Okay.
Let's stay outside because
Yeah.
of the community. So that's what I mean. Yeah. The other thing is we talk about, yes, life could be, I like to put it this way, living takes longer, okay? Clothes had to be hand washed, right? We had to go to the market and buy the food for the day, okay? Living takes longer, but life is so much simpler. And it's not as stressed. You gotta, plan the time that it's going to take to do this, okay? And the other thing is that there was no, there was seamless. There was no dichotomy between your work, what you were doing, and your life. I mean, every moment was sort of significant, even if it was just sitting with my, with the kids, or taking, with the neighbors. That was community. That was building relationships, And I was doing, being a mom was also being a missionary, So, yeah, it was the idea that our whole life, our daily life was in line with mission.
Yeah, I was thinking about kind of like being in the moment is very big, that if you think you're trying to do something and you feel like you're getting distracted from it, that you're missing those opportunities. Like you said, when the power comes back on, no, we're having a good time. Forget it. It doesn't matter. We worked it out. That you really need to kind of just see what's right in front of you, because if you're so kind of drilled in and focused on something that you might miss something really important, those opportunities to build relationships, to really, and to engage more deeply in the culture, engage more deeply in the realities, because people need to get to know you before they'll tell you about stories and realities and questions and challenges, whatever. You earn people's trust that way. You're present, really present with the communities.
And I often had to ask, I really don't know how to do this particular, in this culture, in this situation. Show me how to do it. So it was, it was a mutuality that was there.
It was a bit of survival too, right?
Yeah. You don't really know
relying on your
how do you prepare this? Or?
Yeah. You go with the idea you're helping people, but you have to be helped in turn and be open to being helped. Yeah. And there was a time when I was recovering from hepatitis and she had dengue fever, and we had a six-week-old son, and our neighbors were just wonderful. I need an IV. The guy made an IV pole for me and hooked me, and Celine started an IV. And it's just, and they brought us food, and so it's just, you have to also be on the receiving end too. Yeah. And that's not always easy for North Americans. You want to be giving, right? But to receive is also a gift.
Quite a stretch.
Yeah.
Expect the unexpected.
Yes. Expect the unexpected.
In mission.
And
I don't know how you do that. But
and embrace it.
Yeah. Right.
It's all going to work out.
Yeah. Try to prepare yourself. Well, and I know that I'm sure that's part of that process of discernment and the preparations and orientation that Daniel was describing too. You're going to hear those kinds of stories from folks who've returned or who are currently overseas to say, get ready. It's a different way of living in other parts of the world.
And I want to share something that I really experienced a lot there, and I'm currently experiencing a whole lot with the Venezuela. Times are tough. There's no doubt. The times were tough then. We lived in Nicaragua in the early 1980s. There was a contra-revolution going on. There was economic boycott. It was tough, okay? But our neighbors just said, no, we just put it in the hands of God. We just have faith. You know, I would like to put it in the hands of God, but I would probably stick my hand in there too. But that's how I'm experiencing right now with the Venezuelans. You know, we're doing a lot of know your rights education and things, you know, to empower them to deal with the situation. And they'll say, we have faith in God. We have faith. God brought us. He helped us when we were in Nicaragua. I mean, in Venezuela. They helped us cross through the Panamanian jungle, the Darien Gap. God was with us on that pathway up here with the drug cartels and the human traffickers and that god-awful train called La Bestia. That terrible train. God was with us, and God is not abandoning us. And I'm just like, oh, you so inspire me.
Yeah.
So
In awe of
yeah,
that kind of trust.
in awe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excuse me, may I offer a little anecdote along those lines of what Celine just shared? And Maryknoll Lay Missioners also has immersion trips whereby people can go to actually see firsthand the work that our Maryknoll Lay Missioners work on. We have one coming up here on the border in March 16th through the 22nd, and then to Cambodia in June. And both of those are on the website, and Jennifer can elaborate on those as well. But those experiences, really help people who are there to support prayerfully or in other ways the work of the lay missioners. And on one of them, this was on an immersion trip. I worked with Catholic Relief Services for some time and had also experiences there. But we were in Africa in one of the countries, and this young little girl who had been kind of following around, we were visiting some of the project sites, and this girl showed up and she had the sandal on. And one in our group said, "Oh," and I forget her name, Jenny, or she said, "You lost your sandal." And she gave this big toothy smile. She said, "No," she said, "I found this one." And I think that sums it up in a lot of ways. It's the perspective. It's a different reality that we are invited into, whether you're there on an immersion experience or, of course, when you're there living as a missioner, in entering into this life, being exposed to these different ways that never would have occurred to us. For us, that's a loss. For her, it was like this wonderful treat to have one sandal.
Yeah. I was thinking the idea of like local wisdom too, that you are exposed to. That would be, I think, to a certain extent, humbling.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe we need to be humbled from time to time, but that it helps put things in perspective, kind of realigns our priorities, and that there is such amazing trust in God that we find so fleeting. I think in the North America and the U.S., it is a challenge for us that there's a I don't know. Anyway, a need for deeper spirituality. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But now Daniel just mentioned, other ways that folks can support Maryknoll Lay Missioners. So Jennifer, can you tell us a little more about other opportunities and how folks could learn more if they're inspired by what they heard here today?
Sure, absolutely. So I just want to vouch for the mission immersion trips, though. I went to El Paso and Juarez for the first time last November and got to see what the missioners are doing firsthand. And it's life-changing to actually experience it and witness it for yourself. You think you know what the issues are, you think you know what the situation is, but after you go, you really do. And if you think you might want to support mission, I guarantee you will after a mission immersion trip. It energizes you so much. So please consider the one in El Paso next month. It would definitely be worth it. And Daniel will be one of your guides even.
Ooh.
But we also, I invite everyone to, go to our website at mklm.org. We do very robust storytelling. Our missioners send us their stories on a quarterly basis. It's amazing to just kind of hear from them firsthand, what they're doing, what they're dealing with, the challenges, the triumphs. So, please go there and take some time to read those. Follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. All kinds of great information there about things we have coming up, events, that sort of thing. And then I want to mention for our 50th anniversary that's coming up, we are looking to add 50 new companions in mission, is what we call them. And these are individuals who give $50 per month or more. And our companions in mission really make it possible for us to do the work that we do, to send missioners all over the world to meet material and spiritual needs of so countless individuals. And you can learn more about that also at mklm.org.
Yeah, and we've been, for those of you who have joined us on video, we've been taking a look at the website and seeing what information is available there. And everything that we've been talking about here too is we need everybody. We need people to give of their time, give of their financial gifts, give of their skill sets. And if you feel called, even in a very short term, just a few days opportunity of immersion, that it can be very profound. And if you can go for longer, or you can commit, to a whole lifestyle change, you might discern that opportunity to become a Maryknoll Lay Missioner. If you've been reading those magazines and they just are so fascinating to you and you've always wondered, this is your chance. So we invite you to consider your own vocation and or share this with others too. Maryknoll is tried and true. They've been around a long time, and Maryknoll Lay Missioners for 50 years. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
It was
It's a
wonderful to
pleasure.
have all of you here, Celine and Don, and Jennifer and Daniel. It's a blessing to learn about this vocation, to lay missionary life, and that mission never ends, of course. And congratulations to Maryknoll Lay Missioners for 50 years. May God continue to bless all the good works that you do, and all those of you who've returned and continue the good works too. God bless all of you, and may God bless the migrant ministry in Oak Park. Continue to bless. Thank you again, and we'll remind our listeners to always be on mission. Bye-bye.
Okay.